One November morning, a 6-year-old leaves for school and never comes home. And while this story does end with justice being served, it wouldn't come for nearly 3 decades. On November 29, 1994, 6-year-old Rikki Neave was found in a wooded area near his home in Peterborough, lying on his back, naked and posed in the shape of a star, arms reaching straight out and legs wide apart. He was attacked from behind and strangled by the zipper on his own coat. All of his clothes, along with his school uniform, a white shirt and gray pants, were later discovered in a trash bin nearby. Who would do such a sick and twisted thing, especially to someone so young and innocent? Ultimately, 2 people would stand trial for Rikki's murder. Wait until you hear the details surrounding this case. I'm Brooke. This is Armchair Investigator. Thanks for being here today as we take a deep dive into the murder of Rikki Neave. There are 2 things we know for sure. Rikki had a tough life, and he was taken far too soon. He was known to social services as a vulnerable child and was on the county's child protection register as at risk. Rikki's half-sister Rochelle has talked a lot about their early life together and how there was often no food in the house. There were times Rikki would resort to stealing food from the local stores just so he and his sister could eat. All that coupled with the fact that Rikki missed a lot of school, it was no wonder police first suspected Rikki's mother, Ruth. And boy, does she have a story of her own. After Rikki's body was found, detectives would discover books on black magic scattered around the Neave home, including one about sacrifices. Ruth's obsession with black magic was just the tip of the iceberg into her disturbed personality. She had been in and out of foster homes since the age of 2. Sadly, her parents wanted nothing to do with her. Eventually, they'd end their time here on Earth together as part of a pact. Ruth was 24 at the time. Her struggle with addiction only further destabilized her, and her fascination with the occult only deepened. She told neighbors on the day she moved to Peterborough that she was a high priestess of the occult. You know, because nothing says, I'm a great neighbor, quite like letting everyone know you're a high priestess. Fantastic. Like a good neighbor, stay over there. When Ruth stood trial for her son's murder in 1996, let's just say it was evident that she wasn't winning Mother of the Year anytime soon. And that's an understatement. Apparently, she had threatened to kill Rikki and even wrote the word idiot across his forehead once, and she would often punish him by squirting soap in his mouth. One witness said that she had seen Ruth dangling Rikki over the side of a bridge when he was 4 years old. And let's just say Rikki's stepfather, Dean, was no better. He admitted to burning Rikki with matches and punching him in the face. There's a special place in hell. Horrible mother? Yes. But murderer? Not quite. The evidence just wasn't there. Ruth did 7 years for child cruelty, all while pushing law enforcement to keep working Rikki's case. Eventually, Rikki's case catches the attention of Assistant Chief Constable Paul Fulwood. In 2014, he agrees to hear out Rikki's family, and after reviewing evidence from the 1994 case files, he felt there was more investigative work to be done. He comes out of retirement to see the case through. A task force was developed with an entirely new team. No detectives from the original case were on it. As with any cold case investigation, time wasn't on their side. There were a number of hurdles the new team came up against. Some witnesses had died, and those still around found their memories around the event fading. There were also issues with evidence. Some of Rikki's clothing was returned to Ruth's lawyer after her 1996 trial, and other pieces were just plain missing. But they did get lucky with one thing: forensic archives. You see, back in 1994, sticky tape was used to collect fibers from clothing. The team came across an envelope that contained samples of Rikki's clothing and, get this, the DNA of someone who would become their second suspect, James Watson. James was a local boy who, much like Ruth, also showed disturbing behavior as a child. James and his sister Claire grew up in Peterborough, staying with their father after their parents separated in September of 1990. Claire later went to live with her mother while James was moved to a children's home after his father was arrested and put in jail. For some reason, he couldn't stay with his mother because of the person she was living with. And as a child, James felt like he never quite fit in. He had a hard time making friends and hated school, so he'd often skip and go wander around the local shopping center. He also seemed to have an unhealthy interest in dead birds and young children. It's rumored he'd keep children's clothing catalogs in his room. I think you see where I'm going with this. Now, his name popped up back in 1994 during the original investigation when an elderly witness had spotted him playing with Rikki on the day he was killed. But at the time, James, who was 13, told police he had never been anywhere near Rikki. However, once he was questioned by the new investigation team, his story changes. Don't they all? He tells investigators he had seen Rikki the day he died. He had lifted him in the air to help him see over a fence. Apparently, Rikki had wanted to look at some digging equipment. Well, the police were doing their due diligence and found video footage from 1994 showing the neighborhood being redeveloped. That fence wasn't even built when Rikki lived there. Now police know James is a liar, but finding his DNA on Rikki's clothing isn't enough to secure a conviction. They'd need more evidence. So investigators began digging into his past. Now at this point, James is 41, but they discover in 1993, when he was about 12 years old, he had inappropriately touched a 5-year-old. They'd also found complaints from a previous partner about him strangling her in the bedroom. 2 teachers also came forward who revealed how, on the day after Rikki's murder, James was seen making copies of a news article about Rikki's murder. Subtle. It stood out to the teachers because most 13-year-olds wouldn't be interested in something like that, at least not enough to make copies of it. Listen to this. Apparently, 3 days before Rikki was murdered, James made up a story about a similar situation to Rikki's, where he asked his mom if a 2-year-old boy had been abducted from the area, and if he had been found naked and strangled just off the Paston Parkway. Yeah. He invented this story on Friday, November 25th, and then 3 days later, on Monday the 28th, Rikki was murdered. Coincidence? And besides the age, everything else was the same. Rikki was found naked, strangled, and just off Paston Parkway. I can't make this stuff up. James's ex also talked about how he told her he liked killing birds. Were police ignoring this evidence back in 1994? Some of Rikki's family believe so. Rikki's half-sister Sheridan said they chose to shut that down, and they chose to go with Ruth instead. And I think that's disappointing. I think that we were let down by the police at the time, let down by social services, let down by everyone that was in our lives that were meant to care. In April of 2016, James was arrested on suspicion of murder. At this point, he was racking up the offenses and considered a serial offender, with a criminal record that included arson, sexual assault, and theft. Still, prosecutors felt there wasn't enough evidence to charge him with Rikki's murder. And meanwhile, James flees to Portugal while out on bail, having the time of his life and making sure to post it all on social media while bragging to friends saying, "The best thing is, I don't even have a passport. I just walked out of our country." He was literally living it up and having the time of his life, going to beaches, partying, drinking, and making sure to post pictures of it all online. Now, he was eventually extradited back to Britain to stand trial after Ruth, along with Rikki's sisters, called for a victim's right to review. The prosecutor said, "It has been like a jigsaw puzzle, with each piece of evidence not enough by itself, but when put together, creating a clear and compelling picture of why James Watson had to be the killer." Ultimately, a combination of evidence from DNA, post-mortem, eyewitness testimony, and his changing accounts proved overwhelming. We might never know why James killed Rikki, and even though there were no signs of an SA, police believe Rikki was murdered for James's sick sexual gratification. In April of 2022, James was found guilty of murder after the jury deliberated for over 36 hours. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 15 years served. Now, he was tried based on his age at the time of the murder. He was 13, so his sentence did take that into account. I am so thankful that police continue to look for Rikki's murderer. Finally, justice is served after 28 long years. It still doesn't bring Rikki back. He would be 34 years old. If anything, I think a case like this shows that justice can come at any time. It doesn't matter how long it's been. If you enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, and hey, while you're at it, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on the next investigation.